Okay. It's my talent. I get to stand in front of people and make very random noises. Telling stories about scabs and girlfriends' mouths. Yeah. Take some notes. Are we good?
Yeah, you're good to go in like about 5 seconds.
Okay. Not at the moment. Man, there's I get a lot of my own voice in this little room. It's kind of cool. That was 2 years ago. Sorry. There's a bounty on the bottom of my firewall shirt, so see me afterwards. Anyway, I'll get on with this because it's a small room and it's hot in here. My name is Bruce Potter. I'm going to talk about the dirty secrets of information security, basically the 800-pound gorillas that are all in the room, but we don't want to talk about. How many people in here actually deal with information security or care about information security in some way, shape, or form? Okay, good, because if not, you're on the wrong flight. But it's, you come to a thing like Nauticon where we got art and technology and all these other things, and I could get up here and spout about information security. People would be like, that guy was a jackass. He didn't say anything of value at all. There was no art whatsoever. I made this, by the way. This was mine, and it turns out when I load this background onto PowerPoint on a Mac, it gives me about 4 seconds of latency from the point when I hit the space bar till when it can render the next slide. I've obviously done something wrong. It's a standard JPEG, but it still gets really pissed off. So I'll hit space. We'll wait. There we go. So Macs are really quick, except when they're running Microsoft products. The jokes will get better as I get warmed up, kind of loosening up a bit here. First thing I always open my talks with, don't believe anything I'm about to tell you. Don't believe anything you hear at Nauticon, especially the stuff that Froggy tells you. We're information security professionals, right? I mean, that's what a lot of us get paid for or we care about. And in general, we get paid to be cynical. So when you come here and you get really drunk and you smoke a lot of cigarettes and things, it still doesn't do away with your pressing need to be a cynical person. So I found this quote at a liquor store, of all places, which the punchline, of course, is that's where everyone goes to find religion. And anyway, it speaks for itself. But I encourage you to please challenge what I'm about to tell you. By day, I'm a dirty consultant and deal with wireless security, application assurance, that kind of thing. At night, I'm the founder of the Shmoo Group. I help with ShmooCon a little bit. Heidi really does a lot of the heavy lifting with the rest of the core group. I just sit around and look pretty. And normally I ask if anyone knows what a Volvo 1800 is. Turns out there's at least one person here that does and has restored 2 of them. Does anyone else actually know what a Volvo 1800 is?
The Saint drove it.
The Saint drove it, yes. In the original TV show, The Saint, Roger Moore drove a Volvo 1800. And it's a little 2+2 sports car that Volvo made, and I wanted it since I was 15, and I bought it when I was 30. Note, the car actually hadn't moved in those 15 years and was cohabitating with cattle for a while. So it is in as glamorous shape as that would sound. When you sit there and listen at night quietly, you can actually hear the rust fall off the car. So this is a way to kind of talk about security. It really doesn't have anything to do with the rest of my talk. A lot of the slides in this talk have nothing to do with each other, and I kind of just will ramble through them, and we can just nod and pretend that they actually have some bearing. I made some of them last night. I made some of them this morning. They're actually not numbered in sequential order, so we'll just all play along. IT security needs pyramid. When we talk about security, it's fantastic that we can get we can be zealots. Right? We can get all like, thou shalt have to do the following stuff in order to be secure. And it's like, thou shalt run Linux, thou shalt run Apple. I mean, we're zealots. We like to be very black and white about things. But it turns out security, unlike operating systems, is not a black and white decision. Wow. No Mac fans in the room. That should be abundantly obvious to all the Mac people. Like, there's only one true OS, and it's OS 10, and the rest of you people are all heathens. So when we talk about security, we got to talk about, Maslow talks about the human needs pyramid, right? Like, unless we have food and water taken care of, we don't really care about who to vote for president next, right? I mean, this is pretty standard fare. I contend if you're not doing your core operational security stuff, you're not patching your boxes, you don't have configuration management and operational procedures in place, your IDS can suck wind all day long and it makes no difference, right? IDS is maybe sexy, just like talking about politics is kind of fun, but it doesn't matter if you're not doing the rest of this. So this pyramid kind of gives us a way to frame discussions of security. And I'm kind of a big believer in this. I've worked in shops where we did this bottom stuff real well. It was bread and butter, and we gave the middle finger to the rest of this stuff. We never got owned. Okay, we were running really crazy crap, lots of custom code, all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, we paid attention to the bread and butter basics, and it worked out real well. If you do this, and this is not 100%, right? You don't need to do everything under the sun with respect to patch management, for instance, to start caring about firewalls. That's folly. But you do have to do it, to the 80% line. Similarly, if we do firewalls, that's network security, right? It's what we've been doing for years. And we talk about AAA services, authentication, authorization, and auditing. So that's kind of your next level. You get up a level, now we got a better understanding of our enterprise, okay? We have a better understanding of the systems we're trying to secure. Down here, like this applies, this is motherhood and apple pie, right? Like I can patch all the Windows boxes, hallelujah. Up here, well, now I'm gonna start talking about software security and auditing code. Okay, that's spendy. That requires a great deal of understanding of what the hell it is I'm trying to do, the code that I've written, how it interacts. When I say ACL here, I don't mean firewall and network level ACLs. What I'm talking about are software security mechanisms that will prevent software from doing stupid crap even after I wrote it. Okay, it's one thing to have good software that behaves. It's another thing to control bad software that's misbehaving, right? And they both have kind of the same idea, just achieved in a different way. The idea here with these software ACLs is at the extreme end, you got something like SE Linux. How many people have written an SE Linux policy? One. How many people have turned SE Linux off on Fedora Core? Okay, a few more. That's normally the answer. It's a frickin' battleship, right? Like it is impossible. I like to the analogy I like to make really crappy analogies. This crappy analogy is like taking a strategic bomber to go get the groceries. Like it holds a lot of fucking groceries and it gets there really damn fast. But it's kind of a pain to take off and land. So whether or not it's useful, it's hard to say. There's a product from used to be Immunix. I always forget the name. AppArmor. That's a part of SUSE Linux, and it allows you to control the execution of a piece of software, like, say, Apache, in order to prevent it from doing bad things. One of the guys who's involved in this particular program called me up one day and said, hey, I'm trying to prove a point. I'm like, okay, give me more information. He had a world-readable file in Etsy, and he gave me a login on a box. And he said, I want you to log in, and I want you to tell me the contents of the file. Sure. What am I missing? He's like, well, I've AppArmored it, so Bash can't see that file. Okay. So I log in with Bash, cat the file, permission denied. Neat. That's fun. I figure that's cute. I'll walk my way around this somehow, and I'll read this file. 2 days later, after I've attacked this box in every heinous way known to mankind, and I still can't get to the file, and now I have root access, by the way. It's like, I'm feeling my manhood slip away through the tubes, and it was pretty impressive. And so I was like, hey, that's neat. I'm at a conference with this guy a couple weeks later. I'm like, tell me more about this. I'm like, it can't be that easy to do for something like Apache. And one night, it's midnight, we're all pretty drunk, and we sit down and we AppArmor Apache. And then there's known buffer overflow problems and stuff, and we tried to break Apache and get in the box and do malicious stuff, and we couldn't. Like, oh, wow, that is really freaking cool. We were loaded, blitzed, and Apache still works, the website's still up. I've compromised the process technically, but I can't do anything malicious. Oh. So that was pretty neat. And I'm not here to endorse AppArmor, but there are classes of technology out there that allow us to secure systems as long as we have a better understanding of what it is we're trying to do. So that's software security. Move up. We can talk about IDS. If you're really bored, you can run an IDS. But they're best used for policy enforcement, frankly. I apologize if there's any IDS zealots in the audience. And honeypots are just a colossal waste of time unless you're an academic, and then you can write theses about what all the attackers are doing while they're owning your honeypot. So I owned you. Wow, that's an eye chart from the back, isn't it? I'm just gonna read you the salient bits here. This is from an Air Force study in 1972. Okay. In addition to the experience of accidental disclosure, there's also been a number of successful penetrations of systems where security was added on or claimed from fixing all known bugs in the operating system. The success of the penetrations, for the most part, has resulted from the inability of the system to adequately isolate the malicious user and from inadequate access control mechanisms built into the operating system. 1972. So for those that can do the math, that's 35 years ago. It's the same problem today, right? If the Air Force were to write another study today, they could cut and paste, and some government contractor would get a lot of money. But that's frightening, right? Like, that is goddamn frightening. I got quoted saying goddamn by Wired or someone at Black Hat talking about this problem, and then they put it together with my employer, and then I got in the same sentence. So my employer sent me a nasty gram. Please try not to swear anymore. Fuck you. Stick it to the man. So the deal is, as we're solving problems, the attackers are also solving their own problems, and they're getting better at solving things. And people will argue this graph, and what they usually argue is that the total problem is actually getting bigger at a rate faster than which we're solving things. Not a good situation to be in. Systems are more connected, they're more complex, there's more of them. This is always going to be the case. Moore's law may die at some point, but that's not going to stop the fact that eventually one day my doorbell is going to be able to communicate with my cell phone and the little camera above my door, and I'll be able in real time see who's at my front door when I'm 1,000 miles away, right? And that's going to be a real hackable system. And one day someone's going to be at my door and it's going to be a little Walmart smiley face, and there's going to be a bunch of people walking around with all this shit taken out of my house. All I see is a big Walmart smiley face. You've been owned. So anyway, what we need to do, for those of us on the defensive side of the world, we need to make step functions here. Like, we need to make big leaps forward in capability in order to catch up on the attackers. So let's talk about what the state of things look like. InfoSec. When we think security, we think, I'm going to buy antivirus, I'm going to buy intrusion detection, and I'm going to have strong passwords. Okay? This is the universe of security. We talk about defense in depth, right? Firewalls and antivirus and router ACLs and just layers and layers and layers. Well, so we do understand that the premise here is, well, everything is so crappy that eventually something will be not crappy enough to catch the bad guys. Like, that's the core premise. Like, something will overcome that hurdle of being crap to declare itself secure enough to stop some bad guy. Okay, that's what defense in depth means. Okay, and the more products we layer on in this layered idea, the more we just buy into this mindset of, oh, another pile of poo. Rub it on, stack it up, we're done. This is being videotaped. This is fantastic. I've already pulled poo out of my rear. Is this a good idea? Microsoft is the root of all security evils. Ah, big evil Microsoft. Is that really the case? Is that really what? Are we all worried about Microsoft anymore? Good, we're starting to get a little enlightened. We'll get to that later too. These are all like setting up, this is foreshadowing for those of you in the literary realm. This is an artistic thing, so these are all foreshadowing bullet points. Script kiddies that have more guts than brains, is this still the case? Probably not. All the ideas that we have and we deploy today, the products we buy, are geared for the threat model that we had 10 years ago, right? We are, back here behind this curve, over here somewhere, solving problems that existed, back here, right? I mean, that's one way to interpret this graph. We're finally solving problems on the intersection, on the x, same x value or y value that we have back in the past. And so you could probably even draw this realistically. You could do a study and say, how far back in time do we have to go to figure out what problem we just solved, okay? Steve Bellevin has a fantastic quote. A firewall is a network response to a software engineering problem. Turns out we haven't solved the software engineering problem yet, so we keep having to make smarter firewalls. So the security community is an interesting animal. We're a little stinky sometimes a little drunk. But my wife was so offended she had to leave. It was the poo, yes, it was the poo. Save your seat. Check. Over the last 15 years, we've had quite a discourse on what disclosure of security